Boys and girls, Alex here. About 2.5 years ago I made this mini workbench to assist me in my construction of stuff. It basically sits on top of my main workbench. Oh, here we go. And really it's not because I've got a bad back, but it's more because my eyesight is failing and it brings the work up closer to my face. It's mounted with a fairly heavy, hang on, let's get it in there, standard vise or whatever, and clamped to the workbench by fairly heavy clamps. It's got 3/4 inch dog holes on the top of it, which now don't help me because I've now switched over to, and I'll get a picture of that, I'll switch the camera, back again, this type of workbench, again, not because of my bad back, I haven't really got a bad back per se, however it does bring the work up closer because of my failing eyesight, and it saves me having to wear those magnifying glasses or whatever. And this workbench usually sits on the end there. I do my extra work. It also acts as a shelf to store my tools and all that. This workbench is great because it gives me space to store under it. It's actually held down to the workbench, to the other workbench, by a 3/8 inch steel rod on both ends, which makes it quite stable. And that's it. However, just recently I went to the Melbourne Working with Wood show, which was a total disappointment, but I did come across a H&T Gordon end vise that I just fell madly in love with and bought, and I had no idea what I'm going to do with it. So I decided to make a new workbench. Now, talking about the end vise, here it is. It's a beautiful piece of engineering. It's made out of aluminium. Hang on, I'll just see how much of that you can see. It's getting out of the picture, so I'll move the camera around there. You'll notice underneath the barrel construction, it is absolutely beautiful. Now, there's virtually no racking, or I could say no racking on this, but it's really, racking depends on how you line it up with the front of the worktop. But anyway, that's it. I had that to spare. I didn't know why I bought it, but I did, and I had to mount it on something. So what I finished up doing is making a new workbench. Here we go. This is the unit I've come up with. Now, it's virtually the same design as, well, virtually, it's a similar design to the other one. Legs, you'll notice there's a gap down there, that just so it's not dead flat on the ground, so it sort of like self-balances to some degree, self-levels to some degree, because there's probably just a fraction movement in the timber, I don't know, but it does seem to sit flat that way, not as flat as when I didn't have that cut out. The dog holes on the top are 20mm, as opposed to the other one, it was only 8mm. Now, rather than those heavy-duty clamps, I'll move this around, you'll notice I'm using these lightweight, or fairly lightweight, Rockler clamps that just hold it to the workbench. Now, the whole thing is sitting on, hang on, we'll bring the camera around here, you're sitting on a piece of pine, a white pine board, but the reason for that is that the legs straddle the width of my table saw top, and this way I can, while it would probably reside where my other one is over, where is it, let's focus in on it, over there, that's where he's going to permanently reside, but at the moment I'll just put it on here for demonstration purposes. And not only that, because of that wide board, it can now straddle the width of my table saw and sit quite comfortably. Now, a quick demo of the tail vise. Why it's so bloody good. Look, I get a piece of There's a long piece of timber. Here we are. A nice long piece of timber. Open it up. As you can see, the whole table saw is quite wobbly. Just a little bit of pressure, and as you can see, it's held solid. I could rip it out if I had to, and then to undo it, that's it. None of this sitting there grinding away or whatever. There is a slight amount of racking. I'd be probably looking at about 1/10 of an inch or less than, about 1/64, less than that, 1/28 maybe. But that's because maybe I just didn't mount it that solid, or that square, 100% square. Sorry, I'll rephrase that. The other thing I also had is I had another spare, another one of my stupid little moments, I had another spare vise, which was the tail vise, and I'll get onto that now. Right, here's an end picture of the tail vise. Hang on, I'll move the camera, take it out of the thing, sorry about that. As you can see, there's a top plate that holds it in place, a groove, a slot there to allow a dog to move along, and a very, very, very fine fingertip control movement on it. Anyway, I had this. I was going to mount this into my other workbench, but I thought, damn it, you know, I mean, I've now got the two vices, I might as well make a new one. Not only that, the other one was made out of hardwood. This is now made out of pine. Okay, the pine will dent much more, but then again, hardwood dents if you abuse it. With pine, iron a wet rag and you can iron out a lot of the dents, and it's meant to be a portable workbench. Hardwood was heavy, especially with that metal vise. This one with the aluminium vise, although it's bigger, it's lighter, and the pine is much easier. I can carry this around much easier than I could the other one. A few other interesting things. I shall turn the camera off and show you the underside of it. Actually, before I show you the underside, I might as well show you this tail vise in operation. Now, what you get with the tail vise is one of these little brass dogs. Now, it's actually well profiled. There's a concave area there so the two little ends can dig in. Convex area, I think, on that side. So if it's not dead flat, it'll have a high spot on there. A square edge, and the fourth edge, they reckon you can tailor it to whatever shape you like. Anyway, that just sits in there. As you can see, it moves around freely like that. Using one of my 20mm dogs, slap that in there, and you'll notice, watch this, just sneak it up, a little bit of a finger pressure. All right, I'm sorry, I'll try a little bit more for that, but there you are. Undone, done. Not like cranking, and the whole thing about it is, it's so well engineered, you don't have to apply a lot of pressure, you know, like many a times with clamps you're cranking like crazy. There you are. I'm not going to say that won't move, but as you can see, it moves the whole table rather than anything else. So, yeah, there you have it. Absolutely brilliant design. Okay, now I will flip it over. Okay, boys and girls, the underside of it. Now, one of the things I did do different to the other workbench, I had this little extension there that was screwed on because the legs do come off, so if you do need to transport it, you can at least take it apart to some degree. Anyway, the legs do come off, and not only that, if you want to put higher legs on or lower legs on, that's the concept of that. Now, they're actually held in by 6mm bolts. Now, the threads are threaded with the, alright, I'll spruik the guy, the Wood Whisperer's wood threader, and they're absolutely brilliant. The tolerances are much better than your normal tapping kits you get, because that's meant for metal. This is wood, so the tolerances are much better in wood. And they're held together, 6mm there. Those there holding it in are, again, using the same type of a threader, 10mm bolts. I mean, you can get them in Imperial as well. And it got to the point that when I tapped it, they went in relatively tight. They are meant to be a tight fit, but once I applied a bit of tung oil, I didn't expect tung oil to expand the wood or whatever, but it must have expanded, because all I know is I had to get my pneumatic, what do you call it, those cranking guns or whatever, to actually put that bolt in, because there was no way known I was going to sit there for half an hour trying to just tighten up each bolt manually. And even then, you know, I must admit, it did labour away, and the compressor cut in quite a few times because it went for a while. Now, as I say, you'll see I'll zoom out, and you'll see the underneath mechanism of this magnificent vise. And you can see this barrel here. It moves in, and it is so precisionally worked or manufactured. It must have, I think they said something like about brass bushings and seals on the ends there or whatever. So there's virtually, well, not virtually, there's just no movement in it. It is brilliantly engineered. Look, they're not cheap. And again, you know, why I bought it, I don't know. Maybe I've got a little bit more shekels than brains. I didn't really need it, but I love my gadgets. I love all this engineering stuff. Being a ex-computer programmer, I had to do everything with my brains. Now to see construction like this, I just love it. And anyway, that's it. So the whole thing about it is it's portable, 10mm dogs. Oh, actually, I'll show you some another things you can do with it. I'll flip it off, flip it over, and show you something else. Now, you may have noticed when it was upside down, I was moving the front plate backwards and forwards and again while it was down there. That was readily acceptable because the front plate is about 0.5 mm below the level of the top plate. Now, the other thing that, oh, where is it? There it is. Another thing I often use are these, hang on, let's hope we get it in the picture, Rockler clamps. I made my own 3D printed wheel. They came with 5/16, and I like 1/4 inch or hardware because of my tracks and all that. I use Rockler tracks will accept 5/16, but Incra and Craig tend to go for the 1/4 inch rather than the 5/16. And rather than muck around with filing down hardware, I printed this out, put a 1/4 inch bolt in there, nut in there to accept 1/4 inch hardware. What I've got is a piece of just continuous brass rod. I like brass for whatever reason, but I do. At the moment I've got this 3/4 inch dowel. I'll probably make my own 20mm dowel to put in there so it's a better fit. But for the purposes of this demonstration, it doesn't matter. And I'm using these Rockler slip knobs that slip on, quick one twist and you're off. You're not under there twisting like crazy. So to mount these, drop it in there, hold the plug up, push the knob up, give it get the angle right, give it a quick, come on, twist. Why is it that every time I try and demonstrate something it never works? In practice it works every time. There you are, got it. Now loosen it up just a little bit, tighten it up as much as you like. Not that I need to do this that often, but then if you want to hold it down, naturally with this you could virtually clamp it. Not virtually, you can clamp it on either side, but if you wanted to hold it down with these, and you can mount that on any dog as you like. Then you've also got these other, as you can see, these dogs, and I'll go and quickly get them, which I reckon is just brilliant, are these UKJ Puff dogs that sit in there. You can tighten them up the rubber ring expands and you can virtually lift the... Can you see that? Yeah, you can just get it in the picture. Hang on. I'll get it this way. I haven't clamped it down. Lift the workbench off it. Loosen it up and that's it. Because these rubber rings expand to grip it tight. And not only that, if your circle is just slightly out, it's not a like in this one, you can actually see that if you push against that, it tilts just a fraction. You mightn't see it in the movie, but it does tilt. Once you tighten the rubber rings, that will not tilt. So they are good, however, they are fairly high, and if you need something low profile like that, not much good. Look, one other thing I will show you guys, just in case you aren't aware of it, the 20mm thing, they also have these little units. Now again, they fit into the 20mm hole. However, you do need to screw that down, because the whole idea is there, and that now becomes sort of like an instant variable clamp. That's before these came out. So once you, naturally when that's held down, you spin that down to, hang on, let's do this right, to the right height, and that sort of locks it in there for every time you want a piece of timber, you can move it in there. But as I said, that's got to be screwed down from the bottom, which again there is a screw hole there. One other thing while I've got you here, and I will mention it, I'll tilt this on its side. There it goes. Again, only for people that aren't aware of these little units. They're absolutely brilliant. They're very lightweight. All you need is a 8mm, actually I think it's an 8.5mm hole in there. Put it in, clamp it. It's got quite a lot of travel on it, because that expands out to up to about there. So it's incredible how much you can tighten. Now admittedly, look, it's not nowhere near the strength of a solid clamp. However, it will prevent your work from moving a lot anyway. And look, that's about it. With all that aside, oh no, I'll show you where else I have used this, where else I can foresee using this workbench, and we'll continue there. Okay, I've actually returned here and set this up again, which is actually bullshit, because that movie I took in the drill press room was the very first one I did before I even did this, but you don't know that. It's the way I splice it together, which will be probably at the end of this, even though it was the first movie. Anyway, if you happen to have a tapered piece of, this is just a little additional thing I thought I'd point out. This is not so much something of the mini vise, but more so just something in general. And if you are aware of it, well then turn the bloody thing off. You don't watch or skip past this. Otherwise it might be of interest to some people. If you happen to have a tapered piece of timber that you need holding, what I've done is I've created this wedgie type of a unit. It's just a square block with these sides angled, with a dowel down the centre of it, which is just glued and nailed in. I don't know why I nailed it, but it just needs to be glued in. And on your tail vise, or sorry, not so much your well, at the tail vise end, on your tabletop, or depending on if you've got liners inside your tail vise, put the same diameter channel down there to accommodate this. God, I wish to God. It's so hard when the director, cameraman, soundman and actor to do the one thing and get everything in focus. But anyway, have that the same diameter as that. Now this is a tricky part, lining it up, because again I'm doing it with, I'm only using 2 of my hands to do this, so it's going to be difficult, but sneak up on it a little bit, put it in place, hold it together however you can, and once you start tightening it up then you can move it around. But as you can see, that jaw will pivot on that thing, and that holds it so tight, you know, hey, I could just about lift everything up with that. Now, just as a matter of interest, it sort of eliminates racking. Now, just as a hint for somebody that has got a normal vise somewhere mounted, and if it's got a lot of racking or whatever, I actually use, hang on, I'll go and get it, this homemade jig to eliminate racking, depending on the thickness of the timber and all that, like if I want to hold a piece of timber like that. However, having said that, I might try that, see how well this holds here, because most vices would give you a lot of, hey, that's pretty good, that's holding it well. Let's try the other side. Oh. Yeah, well, that's slipping a bit, but then again that could be because of that's fairly smooth or whatever, but yeah, that's not, I'm quite happy with that. You know, if I can crank that up, there should be theoretically no racking though, which is, no, I'm happy with that, yeah. But normally what you would do is you put that in there and drop one of these little units in to take up whatever rack you had, or to prevent racking, but because I don't have any, that's still that's still got to do while a normal table was. Anyway, look, I'm rambling on. What I'm trying to say is that if you've got a normal vise that does do a bit of racking, make up one of these little gizmos with only just 1 or 2 degree angle there, with a pivot pin, put that in there, and use that all the time, and that will eliminate all your racking problems, hopefully. Anyway, just an afterthought. Don't take that as gospel, but that's it. Oh yeah, while we were on that other thing, I think I was mentioning, again, I'll move the camera, hang on. Right, oh yeah, I was talking about these little gizmos. As I said, it had to be held down to the bench. Well, look, I've just got a, it's an 8mm, because that's an 8mm thread, so naturally I'm going to use an 8mm bolt. It wouldn't get any other size in there. So anyway, that goes in, and I've got this knurled 8mm knurled nut goes in there. Now this is going to be a pain, because oh good God, it's went on straight away. There you are. Spin it on, tighten it up, and now if you want to put a piece of timber in and use that sort of like as a clamp, and spin that down quickly, and that's it. It's clamped in, held there. Take it out, bring your next piece in, and it's already tightened, or maybe just a quick spin to tighten it. But, you know, just a quick way of tightening things down. There you have it. Okay, that's it for now. Bye. Here I am having it mounted on my drill press, just to prove that it is a drill press. Just to show its versatility, you'll find I'm still using that board underneath because the legs on my mini workbench are actually wider than the tabletop of my drill press, so it's there supplementing it. I haven't clamped it down, only because this is more just a demonstration purpose of its versatility, where else you can use it. Why I would use it here, I've got no idea, other than the fact that yes, I can use it here, and B, if I run out of workspace bench in the workshop, hey, I can extend this to, well, whatever I might want. Okay, that's it, thanks. Boys and girls, I'm back again. While canning this video, I suddenly realised, well, I didn't suddenly realise, but I did realise my tail vise did not have one of these little adjustable bench dogs to clamp the piece of wood in. So I had to find something to compensate for it. Over here at the mini bench, God, I didn't want to make a long video, or not that long, but hell, when you're having fun, why not? Again, we said nothing there. So how the hell do I clamp a piece of wood against the bench? I can do it on my tail vise, which is sort of like a moot requirement or unnecessary requirement, but I thought, why not? I'd like it. So to compensate, I made this, let's see if I can get this into focus, this little MDF laser cut box, designed under SketchUp, laser cut, glued together with super glue. Took 5 minutes for the super glue, then about half an hour to rip the clamps off it because there was too much super glue squeeze out. Anyway, a little bit over engineered because I thought I'd need this little stick out lip to hold onto the wood, totally forgetting that there's already a 6mm top layer here that is over and above the top of the workbench, so that's not necessary. Now that makes that a 12mm protrusion over the workbench, so I might, if I need to, cut it off, but at the moment I'm not going to bother. You'll notice I have taken, well, can I see it? Yep, I can. Measurements, cut out these little profiles on the laser beautifully. Look, they fit snug over it. There you go, hang on. There you go, that gives you an idea of how tight a fit it is. It's perfect fit, you know. It's other side as good, nearly, if you can see it. Okay, we're back here, the box, as you see, previously mounted. Block of wood. Oh, look, just the right amount. Slip it against one of the bench dogs. Bring this up, a little squeeze, and I'm now trying to lift it. You can see the bench moving. Sideways, not a problem. Up and down, it's got a good enough hold. I'm just totally wrapped. It's unnecessary because, as I said, I can do the same thing on the tail vise, but now that'll do the trick. I can't, yeah, I probably could. No, it's not tailored to go down this way. It will go down. No, let's not muck around. Don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Actually, talking about the mouth, I tried to take this video about 10 minutes ago and forgot to put my new teeth in. I couldn't understand the bloody word I said, so I had to put the teeth in and reshoot. Anyway, catch you later. Bye.